In terms of price, I don't know. I kind of got it right and wrong last year. I said Ethereum was going to be the big trade, and that did really well. I did think Bitcoin would end up much higher than 100,000. I thought it was close to 150,000, and it stopped at 69,000, wherever it got to. And so I don't know if I'm qualified to make a prediction, but I stick with, I use the logarithmic channel and the upside for Bitcoin. If we get traction again, particularly if we end up with some central bank easing, which I think we will get the last part of the year, or allusion to it, I still think Bitcoin can probably do, it could probably do 300% or so this year, and ETH could do more, significantly more again.
In his latest interview, macro investor Raoul Pal speaks on what cryptos he's been buying up in the latest weakness, which segments of the market he expects to outperform in 2022, and finally he gives his 2022 Bitcoin and Ethereum price predictions. Although Raoul did miss on his 2021 price predictions, to give credit where credit is due, his overall investment themes did turn out to be correct. Precise price predictions definitely come down to an element of luck, however he has given the range he expects investors to see throughout the year. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video where I will cover some of the latest on-chain Ethereum data to see if it backs up Raoul's thesis. First up, here is Raoul breaking down what he has been buying, followed by what prices he expects to see in 2022.
I have added a bit to Ethereum, and I'll add more. I haven't yet. I will broaden out and do some more stuff. I'm trying to decide what to look at. I'm probably looking at some of the beaten down DeFi tokens and some other areas of the market that have been kind of beaten down, because we've had this kind of big sloppy sideways range now for months and months and months and months and months. But some of the market's been killed within that. So I'm starting to look at that stuff. Haven't yet deployed any money to it, but getting there, but have been buying ETH. So I look at it in terms of network effects, what networks are growing within crypto. So Ethereum's the kind of biggest, most robust network in terms of the number of developers, the number of people investing in it. So that makes that one of your base, investments. Bitcoin, being the OG in the space, is another base investment. But then you want to start probably going a little bit further out on the risk curve. So we're seeing these layer ones, stuff like Terra, Avalanche, and probably Solana. Interesting. Then I think maybe 2022 is going to be the year of interoperability. So we're looking at, Polygon, Quant, and a few other things that might give us those opportunities. And DeFi's been quiet now for a year and a half. So I think we might see the next wave of DeFi, along with NFTs and social tokens. So there's a lot to play for still this year, lots happening. Bitcoin needs a shot in the arm, essentially, from network effects, because we're seeing less activity than we are elsewhere. So you need to drive new participants into the space. One thing I do know is institutions are coming into the space, but I think it's switching a little bit from the direct Bitcoin access to VC access and hedge fund access and other ways. So I do think we'll see some more balance sheet stuff, but the problem is the accounting laws still don't help. So for gap accounting in the US particular, they have to mark it to worst price. And so it's a real nightmare on a balance sheet. So until that gets resolved, we won't see many more corporations do it. Flip side, we're seeing all the banks building crypto businesses, and of which Bitcoin is the predominant one, Bitcoin and ETH again. So I do think the banks will have them not on their balance sheets essentially, but in their trading books. And I think we will see more pension funds and institutional investors. And I think this year might be the year of the sovereign wealth fund. It would be really surprising if Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, I think Singapore already has it on their balance sheet. Saudi, I think. There's a whole bunch of these that I think will start doing it. They've already been doing VC investments in the space. I think they'll start coming into the space in terms of physical ownership of Bitcoin. It's the real sign of acceptance. In terms of adoption, yes, it allows other pension funds to own it, other large pools of capital. Now, the key thing about these sovereign wealth funds is they have gigantic assets. So even a 0.5% weight is, billions and billions and billions of dollars. So when they come into the space, it's going to be meaningful and they'll be in it forever. So that's something to really keep an eye on, because when that starts happening at scale, it'll move the price for sure, and it'll drive pension funds to come in and kind of other players. So I think the SEC is fighting its own turf war with the CFTC, the OCC, the Fed, and everybody else who wants to regulate Bitcoin and crypto. So they're fighting war by saying we're going to be tough on these people. Now, don't forget, the US government is full of baby boomers. So it's an old group of people who mistrust and have a fear of change. So there's that. So I think that's the fight that the SEC wants to have, and they want to look like they're in control of this. Meanwhile, there's 86 million millennials and 70-something million Gen Z who are now voters, who have a lot of money. And we've seen them, as soon as you shake the cage, rattle the cage about banning crypto or trying to do something nefarious to crypto, they get together very fast. This is why I'm thinking about the DAO structure. My guess is when we're now getting into political season in the US, people are going to start to put together a DAO structure to support politicians of both sides that support the adoption of cryptocurrency. And people don't want to fight young, wealthy voters in gigantic numbers. So I think that fight's going to come. And I think the outcome should be, and here's my advice, is they need to walk away from the securities law, the 1934 securities law. It is unacceptable to tell people that they are not allowed to make certain investments versus others, while making it completely allowable to go to a casino and blow everything. I mean, it's so inconsistent. You can buy a gun, but you can't invest in a private company. I mean, how dare they do that? And you've got a very large group of young people who have an all-time record value equity market, bond market, real estate market. Here's the opportunity of a lifetime, and you think it's right to stop them. So I think people need to change the rules. I spoke to the chief fintech officer of Singapore on Real Vision recently, and I said, how's Singapore doing it? And he said, well, what we've done is just said, we'll give you risk warnings. So we tell you that it's a risky thing, that it's an early stage investment, and that it could go to zero, but feel free to invest. And that seems much more sensible way of going about it than saying, well, if you're not worth $1 million, the day you're worth $999,000, you're not allowed to invest in certain things. And the day you go over, suddenly you're now smarter and experienced. It's ridiculous. So it has to stop. I think that, and I've been alluding this for some time because it's stuff that I'm working on that I can't really talk about, but I think this is the year of social tokens. People don't really yet, I talk about it, people don't really get it. We're seeing Bored Ape start with the ape token. There's some of these, but these are still small scale. We're going to see some gigantic communities tokenize, and we'll see the power of token economics. So that's the big thing that people aren't aware of because they haven't seen it yet. So that's my big prediction for this year. In terms of price, I don't know. I kind of got it right and wrong last year. I said Ethereum was going to be the big trade, and that did really well. I did think Bitcoin would end up much higher than 100,000. I thought it was close to 150,000, and it stopped at 69,000 wherever it got to. And so I don't know if I'm qualified to make a prediction, but I stick with, I use the logarithmic channel, and the upside for Bitcoin, if we get traction again, particularly if we end up with some central bank easing, which I think we will get the last part of the year, or allusion to it, I still think Bitcoin can probably do, it could probably do 300% or so this year, and ETH could do more, significantly more again. And price predictions are impossible because, the texture of markets changes over the year, and you need to understand what that means. I mean, I'm not in this for the short term, so I don't really care, which is so, but all I care about is the adoption and stuff like that. So yeah, it's tricky to make predictions, but we'll see.
So there's Raoul with his Bitcoin and Ethereum price prediction for 2022. A 300% gain at current prices would put Bitcoin at north of $120,000 and Ethereum at over $10,000 plus. Do you think his predictions will play out this year? Let me know in the comments. Now, to look at some on-chain Ethereum data, some data we have not checked in on yet this year is the ETH supply on exchanges, which tells an interesting story. Despite a decent decline in price over the last few months, supply is still hitting lows on exchanges, suggesting certain market participants are still accumulating despite prices. If this trend continues into the ETH 2.0 launch, it is only going to add to the ongoing Ethereum supply shock, and sooner or later, the price of Ethereum will only have one way to go. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed today's video and that provided you with some value. I'll see you all in the next video, and as always, have a great day.